Neville Goddard Lecture. Perception. By Neville Goddard, April 26, 1968. There is nothing that appears in perception which cannot be duplicated in fancy, and what the world perceives is all imaginative in character. Here is a graphic example. I am sure everyone knows what it is to detect the fragrance of a rose. Now smell is a chemical sense and depends upon contact for perception. But does one really need a rose to detect its fragrance? Cannot its fragrance be reproduced imaginatively? Having smelled an Easter lily, can you not discriminate between the smell of a rose and a lily, imaginatively? Then they do not exist independent of you, but live on some level, or levels, of your imagination. Can you call upon your memory of an experience of long ago, bring it back, and duplicate it in fancy? If so, then this world is no different from your imaginal one. In 1820, William Blake wrote The Presence of the Divine Teacher, in which he said, "Man is all imagination and God is man and exists in us and us in him. The divine body Jesus, we are his members." In this statement Blake does not separate the members from the one body, the one Spirit, one hope, one Lord, one faith, one God and Father of us all. There is only one imaginal body. We are all his members, for we are all imagination. You can reproduce and duplicate any perception you have ever encountered, in your imagination. A friend or dear one does not need to be physically present for you to think of him. Nor do you have to be in your living room in order to see its contents. You can see the plains of Kansas, the mountains of Colorado, or the great Mississippi River without being there. So when we think from the premise of this as a world of imagination, we start on solid ground, for imagination is he who creates reality. There is no fiction in the true sense of the world, for when a state is imagined, it is created. Prayer is imagination drenched in feeling. A desire, drenched in the feeling of fulfillment, objectifies itself. This I know to be true, so regardless of what the world thinks, when you reproduce anything in your mind it takes on form in your outer world. Everything here was once only imagined. The clothes you wear, the chair in which you are now seated, the building which houses you, all were first only imagined. Everything begins and ends in the human imagination. The source of all phenomena is divine imagining, which is God himself. Do not believe in any being on the outside. Make a decision within yourself now to radically change your attitude toward another, and persuade yourself that what you believe is true. If imagining creates reality, and you practice repentance by radically changing your mind, you can take anything that displeases you and change it. Then persuade yourself that the change is real. Expect it to mold itself in harmony with what you are thinking, and the man, woman, or room, will bear witness to your repentance. Now remember, nothing appears in perception that cannot be duplicated in fancy. If you can perceive your desire, it exists. You cannot perceive an object that does not exist on some level, or levels, of imagination. Identify your human imagination with God, and because God calls a thing that is not now seen as though it were seen, you can call a state into being by assuming you are in it. And if you believe you have received your desire, you will, for belief will lead the way to its fulfillment. If you look to reason rather than imagination, you are seeing the devil instead of God. The devil is the doubter in you. He questions your belief saying, "If you are the Son of God then turn this stone into bread. Cast yourself down and his angels will lift you up." All of these challenges are made by self-doubt. I urge you to practice the art of imagination. If you do, I promise you will prove it in the testing, even though you may have started out to prove it wrong. Now let us go into the silence.